Hello everyone and welcome to Coproduce Care. My name's Sophie Chester-Glynn and I'm a director at Coproduce Care Kick, and we're doing these #chat4care live streams because we want to open up the health and social care debate. And if you don't know much about us, I'm sure some of you who've been tuning in quite regularly do by now. We are a non-profit organisation and we want to open up the care debate, but also, which I'll talk about later, we are blogging and vlogging about social care. We started the end of last year and we've been doing various things, including helping people to get involved with responding to government consultations. So do follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @CoProCare. It's at the bottom there. And if you're going to get involved with the chat today, then please do use the #chat4care, and then we can get people on Twitter involved as well. If you are joining us on YouTube, then you'll see the subscribe button. And you know, we're a voluntary organisation. There's volunteers and people who work in social care who are helping make this happen. We don't get paid for any of this, but we really would love to know that people are finding it interesting or just supporting us. So if you could just press on the subscribe button, that just makes us feel good for all the work and prep we'll be doing for these chats. And also click on the bell so you'll find out when we have got more guests coming up in the future. And if you're on Facebook, because we're going live on Facebook as well, then you'll also see the star. So if you press on the star, then you'll get reminders, and you can like us and share as well. So today we are going to be joined by Sarah Blackmore, who is going to talk to us about Social Work England. Now you're going to have to help me out on this because I don't know much about social work. I know more about social care, but the social work bit is a bit new to me. So welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Sophie.
Hi, Sarah. Can you tell us? Thank you. Can you tell us a bit about you and what you do in Social Work England?
Yes, definitely. My name is Sarah Blackmore and I am Exec Director of Strategy, Policy and Engagement for Social Work England, which is the new specialist social work regulator for almost 100,000 social workers in England. But before I say any more and give you some more detail about me and about the organisation that I help to run, firstly, I'd just like to reiterate how pleased I am to be here with you, Sophie, and your listeners, and particularly so on a Thursday evening as the nation is gearing up for its weekly clap for our wonderful key workers, carers and NHS staff across the country, and to just really acknowledge the amazing work that social workers and social work students are doing every day across the country in really difficult circumstances, and to express on behalf of Social Work England a huge thank you from us for everything that they are doing. And I certainly will be clapping for you all at 8 o'clock tonight. So
thanks for that, Sarah. That's a really good point, actually. So 8 o'clock, we're doing this chat for care because we thought it would go a little bit with the kind of clap for carers. So yeah, that is a great point. And we're going to have a shorter one tonight, a shorter chat tonight. So we will be ending around about 7:30. So lots of time for people to go out and do that. But could you tell us a bit more about Social Work England, because that is the regulator, and it didn't used to be Social Work England. That's quite new. So for anyone who doesn't know about it, can you give us a bit of a intro?
Yeah, certainly. So we are the new specialist regulator for almost 100,000 social workers across England. And we took over from HTPC on the 2nd of December. So we are a brand new organisation, and we are responsible for a range of different aspects of social work, which include holding the register for 100,000 social workers. So if you want to practice as a social worker and use the protected title of social worker, then you need to be registered with us. We set the professional standards for social work practitioners, including standards for continuing professional development, or CPD, and education and training qualifying standards. And I'll say a little bit more about that as we go on. We also are responsible for dealing with situations where a complaint has been made about a social worker, and establishing whether any action is necessary in those circumstances. We approve training courses for social workers, and we also approve post-qualifying courses for people who are interested in becoming approved mental health professionals, or AMPs as they're known, or similarly for best interest assessors, or BIAs. And the thing about social work is that we love an abbreviation. So if I slip into lots of abbreviations, then please do pull me up on it. So our primary role and function is, like most regulators, protection of the public. And as well as that, our role and function is to raise standards of social work across the country, and to help ensure that anyone who is using a social work service receives the best possible service whenever they might need it in life. Our approach to social work regulation is one that is very firmly based on engagement, dialogue, collaboration, and co-production. And that is kind of the foundation of how we approach our regulation, and very much based similarly on the values and principles that the social work profession is based upon. It has been an incredibly exciting time establishing a new regulator and a brand new organisation. And we have literally been looking, and before the lockdown anyway, looking at desks and chairs and computers coming in around us, building our team, building our culture, which is incredibly important to us. And again, one that's very firmly rooted in social work values and principles. So that culture of engagement, transparency, we've been really clear that we're open and transparent in our operation. We've invited people to come and shadow us from across the profession, and that has happened really successfully a few times before everything stopped. We've recently launched our 3-year corporate strategy, which sets out all of the things that we hope to do and achieve over the next 3 years. And all of that has been done in collaboration and co-production with lots of people who have an interest in social work, and particularly social workers who are practicing at the coalface, and people who use social work services. So our expert by experience group has been extremely important to us in laying the foundations of our organisation.
Great, and that's really interesting to hear that you did work with so many different groups when you were forming the new regulator. How have people taken to you? Because I know from CQC, there's just a lot of scrutiny. Some of it is great, but not usually, because a regulator is a regulator and it's there to tell you what to do. So, but also it's got support. It sounds like you're very different from the CQC in that you do provide training and support and registration in a different way.
Well, we don't actually provide training. What we do is we approve the qualifying training courses for social workers. And post-qualifying areas in mental health. So we will quality assure social work training courses, and we work very closely with the universities across the country who provide those courses, as well as some of the newer fast-track providers. At the moment, we're meeting with them weekly to discuss lots of the issues that are relevant for students and lots of the concerns that students have raised, and we are trying to address those. And we are looking at how we can work flexibly with training providers to ensure that our new generation of social work practitioners are equipped and ready for practice, despite the current crisis that we all find ourselves in. And like many people, I think when you're starting a new organisation, you plan for lots of risks and lots of things that might go wrong. A global pandemic was not one of them.
So I'm hoping I'm gonna put the right one up now, because you talked about your strategy. This new strategy, is this the one? No, this is the one. No,
No.
I don't think I have it. But you have your new strategy out, corporate strategy. And what we want to know is, I think on parts of it, you've been talking about better engagement, innovation, helping to connect with people a bit better. So what specific actions are you going to be taking to improve confidence in the regulator?
So one of the key, I think, differences in our approach to regulation has been the focus that we've got on engagement and dialogue and collaboration. And to help us to do that effectively, we established a team of 8 regional engagement leads who are working in specific geographical locations across the country with everybody who has an interest in social work. Reaching out, talking to social work practitioners, to people who use social work services in those regions, and gathering all of the really rich anecdotal evidence that is there about social work practice, and helping to use the feedback that we get from all of those people to shape our approach to regulation and our approach to what we're doing. So that has been hugely successful, and people have really responded to that. And that was there right from the very beginning. And even in terms of the development of our professional standards, we did that in partnership with not only other regulators of social work and social care in Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales, but key partners across the country. So agencies like Skills for Care, the Chief Social Workers, Sky, a whole range of partners who've been really helpful to us in providing that constructive challenge, as well as our Expert by Experience group. So for the first time, social work has a set of professional standards that was designed and developed by the profession itself. So there's something incredibly exciting for me about that, and particularly as a social worker myself. And I can really see myself in the new standards and being able to sign up to those. And the feedback that we have had across the profession is that approach has been really welcomed, and the simplicity of the standards, but their closeness to practice has been really welcomed so far.
I think that's great. And I wonder whether, it's interesting that you talked about Skills for Care. I wonder whether your approach might be something we look at when we think about doing something for the social care workforce, because obviously you said, you've worked with different groups, you've done it co-productively, people can see that they've made a difference to the actual process. Do you ever get calls for advising on social care workforce? Is that just totally a different area?
Well, it is a different area in that it's an unregulated part of the sector, but there's no doubt that social work and social care are very much linked, and the organisations and partners that we work with will have a mind to social care as well. So, for example, one of the things that we're doing at the moment in terms of our advocacy and our highlighting what's happening across social work across England is we are meeting regularly with government departments to talk about issues that will be similar to social work and social care. So, for example, things like the current difficulties in moving from a very face-to-face type relationship with people who use services to almost exclusively online, certainly with regards to social work. I know social care is slightly different, and how best to support the workforce to do that safely. We meet regularly with academics and training providers, and we also meet regularly to talk to the chief social workers about issues for the profession. We also meet on a regular basis with the departments to talk about PPE and to try and ensure that social work is front and centre of people's minds in all of those discussions.
And what about how you've been dealing with COVID-19? What strategies have you been putting in place to help the social work sector?
So very, very much what I've just said, really. I mean, our engagement work continues, and our regional engagement team are continuing to be very active online. They are working with local authorities and independent social workers across the country, gaining feedback on what's happening locally so that we can use that when we are speaking about social work at a national level, and with key partners. One of the really significant things that we did is, together with the Department for Education, the Department of Health and Social Care, and the LGA, we established a campaign called Social Work Together, in recognition of the fact that during this crisis, there has never been a greater need for social work and social workers, and to address any potential capacity issues in the workforce, to encourage social workers who have recently left the register to return. So we have an online portal now with 1,000 people signed up to it, and 90 local authorities signed up to it. And we are looking at how we can continue that over the medium to long term, and how we can deploy social workers as and when needed across the country. I think one of the issues that has come up is that social workers who, they are such a fantastically committed profession, and are working as best they can in very difficult circumstances. But I think one of the big issues at the moment is the hidden harm, and the reduction in the normal numbers of referrals to social work departments. And as the lockdown eases, the spike that we are anticipating in those referrals and the potential impact that that will have on the social work profession. And so the need to have a campaign and a portal like ours, like Social Work Together, we think is really going to come into its own as we start to see that demand for social work increasing at that point.
How are you worried about about lockdown, that a lot of people are, care homes, you haven't got access to people like you would have, and vulnerable adults and abuses that are going on now? How are you doing check-ins to, are social workers able to check by video link? Are they getting resistance or cooperation from people?
Well, one of the amazing things about the social work profession is how well they respond to pretty much any situation that's thrown at them, not least a global pandemic, and will adapt their practice accordingly. And we know that right across where social workers are working, they are adapting, and they are working to ensure that they can do their jobs as effectively as possible, despite some of the current constraints around that. One of the ways that we have tried to assist with that as a regulator is through our partnership with the Principal Social Work Network. And we have developed some guides in partnership with them, which we have circulated recently, around things like online safeguarding, risk assessments, and so on. And those have been well received, and we plan to issue some further guidance in different areas of practice. But we know that social workers are responding extremely well, and working as flexibly as they can. And indeed, one of the things that will be interesting to look at as we move out of this crisis situation is, what are the areas of changed practice that we want to hang on to as social workers, and indeed as a regulator, and what are the areas of practice that absolutely need to return to what they were. So I'll give you an example. One of the unintended consequences, really, which social workers I know will want to think about, is the increased engagement from young people through the digital work that and the digital contact that social workers have been having with them. And I mean, it sounds obvious, because what teenager doesn't want to use their tech? But it's not something that I think social workers have really maximized previously. So there is an opportunity there to look at that as one example of something that we might want to hold on to in our work with young people.
Sorry, I died then a little bit. My internet went, but well done for carrying on. What I wanted to get through, because I know we've only got you for 10 minutes, you were actually making a really good point about risk assessments before I disappeared. And I was on a call today with the Royal, I can't remember the name, but it was like the Royal Institute of Medicine or something like that. And they were talking about guidance on risk assessments for care staff or staff who are from non-white backgrounds. Because of the higher risk and how they're being affected by COVID-19. I wondered whether your organisation could bring out some support to help guide organisations with how to risk assess for those types of groups who are working in care.
Well, our mandate is limited to social work. We are the specialist social work regulator. So while we are very happy to share information with partner organisations, we can't extend our mandate beyond social work at this point.
Okay.
And that's not to say that we wouldn't be hugely concerned with, like many across the country, with what's happening, particularly in Black and minority ethnic communities who are working in the social work profession. We have shared our joint risk assessment that we put together with the principal social workers, with the Department of Health and Social Care, and with the Department for Education. And I think that they have used the basic underlying principles to inform some of the guides that they have been putting out.
So was that specifically for that group?
No, it was risk assessment more generally, but some of the underlying principles would be cross-cutting.
Yeah. So I wanted to go into some of the issues that we did a bit of a research about what might be relevant to discuss. And one of the things that came up was online safety. So I don't know too much about it, but there's this report which I'll pull up, and it's from Community Care Online magazine, and it talks about online safeguarding. So the way I understood it was that there is going to be some type of test almost that's done to help people understand whether somebody a vulnerable adult has capacity or can actually use or understand how to use technology. And I just wanted you to explain, if you know whether that is going to be used to deny people getting technology or getting support, or to understand that some people who are, connected with social workers might need some more support to use technology. I don't know if you know much about that report on online safeguarding vulnerable adults.
Well, from our perspective as the regulator, it would be to ensure that social workers felt as equipped as they possibly could be to work safely in an online capacity, which many of them are having to do now on a daily basis. In terms of capacity for people who use services, I mean, that is something that social workers who were working with those people would need to make individual assessments of.
What about the well-being of social workers? Because I know in the past it's been a hot topic about huge caseloads, not enough time, and there's been a real issue with well-being for people who are working as social workers or training. Is the regulator doing much around that to give more support?
Well, again, one of the things, and I'm very conscious that it's Mental Health Awareness Week, and particularly mindful as a social worker myself of the stresses that can be present in social work practice. One of the things that we want to do is to use our regional engagement leads to get a clearer picture of what's happening in social work across the country, so that where there are real issues, and we know that there are in certain areas, we are able as the regulator to shine a light on that, but also to highlight nationally the fantastic work that so many social workers are doing every day in very difficult circumstances, even when we're not within a global pandemic, and to really speak out about social work as a profession and the incredible difference that they make to people's lives every day.
Thank you for that. And it's a good point. We're coming to the end of Mental Health Awareness Week, but especially in these times when people are self-isolating and still having a lot of work to do, presumably social workers are still quite worried about what's going to come their way. As you say, lockdown does ease. One person, I'm just looking at questions. One person says, how do you work with HTPC?
Right. Okay. Well, we took over social work regulation from the HTPC on the 2nd of December. So we have had a very close working relationship with them, as you can imagine, to ensure that the social workers who were registered with the HTPC could transition safely and smoothly to our systems. And we're really confident in the way that happened. So, you know, we will continue to work with HTPC as a regulatory partner, as with other regulators in the different allied health professions across the country.
And what are the kind of worries and issues that social workers are coming? Are you someone that they would come to as for a complaint or whistleblow against any issues that are happening? Are you having any increase in that and during COVID-19?
One of the things that we ask social workers to do as part of the professional standards is to be able to speak to us about concerns across where they exist across the organisation. We've not had that so far through the COVID crisis, but that's not to say that won't happen. We will always hear complaints from social workers if they contact us, but one of our key roles is to look at where we receive complaints about social workers and how we respond to that. So we have a fitness to practice process that has been ongoing throughout the current situation, and we have adapted to enable hearings around practice issues to be held virtually. And I know that social workers have responded positively to that, rather than having to delay until lockdown eases and we can have face-to-face hearings again. Our approach to fitness to practice is also new and different in the sense that we have an option to agree a fair and just disposal with social workers in cases where a complaint may have been made and the social worker has accepted and acknowledged that there was an issue and has taken steps to remediate that. We can agree in those circumstances not to proceed to a final hearing as long as it's appropriate to do so. So there is a whole range of ways that we are trying to be as responsive a regulator to our profession as we can be. But I think people do tend to get hung up on fitness to practice, particularly in regulation. And for us, it's important to highlight that 2% of the social work profession will come to our attention through fitness to practice. And we want to talk to the other 98% of social workers. We want to hear from them what the issues are for them in their day-to-day work. And we want to be a responsive regulator, which does help to shine a light on the fantastic difference that social work makes every day in this country.
Yeah, and it is important there's so much negative news and information out there. It's good to have a bit of a balance as well. So in terms of if people want to get in touch with you or if they want to find out more, they just go to the website. Are you running webinars or information for people at the moment?
We are updating our website regularly, socialworkengland.org.uk, and we are doing lots of updates on our Twitter account, so please do check those out. We've got examples of adjustments that universities have made for students. We've got examples of work happening across the country. We've got some lovely stories from social workers who have described how their practice has changed in the current situation. So, and of course, our corporate strategy, which sets out what we plan to do for the next 3 years. So please do look at our website and tell us what you think.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was fantastic. And it was a good whistle-stop tour around Social Work England, which I know nothing about before this, but I do now. So that was really helpful. And maybe as lockdown eases and things get back to normal, we can have you back on and talk a bit more about how the strategy is working out. So thank you very much. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks a million, Sophie. All the best.
You too. So that was Sarah Blackmore. And if you want to hear more from her, obviously we've been having the links that we've been showing at the bottom of the screen, but we'll also put them in the description box of this video when it's released, which will be straight after we finish going live. So I just want to talk a little bit about what's coming up in the next few weeks on the Chat for Care live stream. So I will be having Chief Executive of Care England, Martin Green, Professor Martin Green. Now, he's been in the press a lot talking about social care. And if you've been watching the news at all, then you will have heard him, you will have seen what he's been doing. He's been also, like Vic Rayner, who we had yesterday, talking about social care to the Health and Social Care Select Committee. So he has a lot. I mean, if you've heard him talk before, he doesn't hold back in his views on social care. So that'd be a nice, honest and clear interview. Also, we'll be having Jez, who is Bethany's dad. Now, Jez, his daughter Bethany used care services and she was admitted to an assessment and treatment unit and had some really bad experiences there, and he's going to talk about those, and as a parent how he dealt with them, the stresses that he had to go through. He had to go to court, and actually it just so happened just before COVID-19 broke out, she moved to a different care provider, and there's a really good story to end on. So I'm really looking forward to speaking with Jez. So he'll be with us next week, next Wednesday, the 27th, 7 o'clock, as always. And on Thursday, we are going to be talking to a couple of voluntary organisations. So one in Bristol called Can Do, which is connected with the local authority, organises volunteers. And also we'll have the Bristol National, well, the National Food Service and the Bristol branch will be talking to us and looking at how they're helping local communities and people who are self-isolating in Bristol, and they're doing some fantastic things. They just saw that the problem was happening, and they just went and set up this organisation, which has grown and grown. After that, we'll be looking at Acorn Communities, and they'll be talking to us about some of the things that they're doing. So again, if you haven't already, like our page, subscribe, because I think those are going to be two fantastic Chat for Care live streams next week. I'm really looking forward to them. And then Professor Martin Green will have the week after. So lots going on. If you want to hear from anybody that we haven't already said we're going to be inviting on the chat, then we want this to be a channel for everybody and anyone to talk about social care. So we're opening up the debate, but we can't know what social care is about unless you tell us what you want to hear about, and then share that information. So please do get in touch with us. We've got our website there, and all our details are on the website. And of course, continue following us and tuning in. So I think I'm going to end it there tonight. A nice short one. And next week, like I said, we'll have some more guests on again. Really looking forward to those. So good night, everybody, and take care.